We begin today's recording by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we are on. I am on Burrawang land. Where are you, Breezer?
I am on the land of the Djadjarurrung people.
We pay our respects to the elders past and present and extend that respect to our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples who are tuning in today.
And wherever you're listening to the potty today, make sure you know whose land you're on. Join us each week for some booze-free banter about life without booze.
If you're entertaining cutting back your booze by a day, a week, a month, or for the rest of your life, we would love for you to tune in.
Buckle up and come along for a ride that may just change your life. If any of today's conversations have been triggering, please reach out to your local support centre in Australia. That is Lifeline 131114.
Crack a can.
Let's crack a can. What are you drinking today, Meso?
Le in Rosé.
Ooh, so am I. Altina, Le Vit en Rosé. I've got the bottle though.
Bottle-o. Good.
You've got the can.
The sharing can.
I've got the bottle. You've got the can. Our listeners have got a discount code. What is it, Meso?
BFB 10. Get your 10% off all Altina range. Get on it. Where are they, Breezer?
They are at www.altinadrinks.com and their drinks are absolutely delicious and we love them. Thank you,
Altina.
Meso.
Breezer.
I know we always start an episode by saying we are up and about after we've spoken to someone.
We really, really are.
We really, really are. Who have we just had on? Actually, should we I'll do a little prelude intro.
Yeah. Hit it.
So he first hit our screens in 2006 on Big Brother, and Meso and I fell in love with him then. He then reappeared most recently. In between that, he's done lots of media. He's been a presenter. He has set up an organisation called Rough Track where he works with, could we say, troubled teenagers that are perhaps going on the wrong track. Mm-hmm. He scoops them up and he works with them and his dogs. And he most recently appeared on the Big Brother reunion in 2022. I feel like our listeners know who it is. It is the one and only Farmer Dave. And we can absolutely say he's a cracking guy and we love him more now.
We are completely fangirled. We're obsessed. Our crush has gone to sweet, sweet love and we'll do anything he says.
He's just a great fella.
Good.
And he was so, some of the stuff he said today, Meso, I actually had no idea. Obviously, he has a different persona on TV. He's sort of got his work persona and his TV persona. And, he went deep and he really shared some stuff that he brought to the surface that we know you guys will relate to. So
totally. We can't wait for you to get your ears around it.
Let's get amongst it, should we?
Love him too. Yes, here he is.
Let's get amongst it. Farmer Dave. A big, warm, booze-free Bants. Welcome to I'm actually going to call him our very handsome guest, Farmer Dave. Welcome to Booze-free Bants.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for saying that. Someone at my age doesn't get that often, so thanks.
Well, before we actually get into our first segment called Confession Session, Meso and I have a confession to tell you, Dave. We both had, when you first appeared on our TV screens, we had the biggest crush on you ever. I'm sure you've heard that. I'll tell you what, they did some great casting that Big Brother because I watched every single episode because of it. So there you go. It's out there.
Yeah, 2006. It's like a vintage of wine, isn't it? It was often people's favourite.
Yes. It was a cracker. But enough from us, Dave. We are going to hand it over to you and we're going to hear your confession session, which is a story about something that you've done when you've been hammered that you're perhaps not so proud of.
Session, it's time to play. Will you tell us what you're ashamed to say?
Oh, heavens. So when I used to drink, there was a lot of blackouts, so not much memory of what's going on. But I suppose, getting hammered in, I think it was Luang Prabang, and back in the day, it would have been 20 odd years ago, and waking up on a bus in southern Laos. No one on there at all speaking any words of English. It was me, lots of chooks, the bus driver, his prostitute that he had, and then just going, where the hell am I? What is going on? No technology, no nothing. And I later found out that I was on a one-way to northern Cambodia that was still held by rebels at that time, and no way to get out. Is one road all the way down, very long, skinny country Laos is, and this, of course, is 20 years ago, and I came out of my my long bender and became conscious, and but anyway, yeah, that was pretty full on. Yeah, ended up, getting kidnapped and all this sort of stuff later, but yeah, that was when substance abuse probably really did get me in a very different situation than I think most humans ever get themselves in.
Jesus.
James.
Yeah.
Just going back to the blackout drinking, because Mesa and I were both the same, and I don't often hear of males being blackout drinkers. So, yeah, so it sounds like you were one of those.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, get myself hammered, don't recall anything. But, that's the funny thing that kind of perpetuated it. Everyone thought I was so awesome. I don't remember it.
I don't
remember. Yes, awesome last night. I don't remember nothing. I'd always wake up, not so often, on a one-way bus to rebel-held northern Cambodia, but yeah, I would often find myself in strange places. You'd start off New Year's Eve at Lismore. You'd end up waking up in a very fancy house in Byron Bay and go, what the hell happened? Where the last 3 days?
Who was that guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all been there. So I haven't been to the rebel side of things, the rebel territory, but thank you so much for sharing that, Dave. I think you've sort of set the scene for this morning's chat. So take us back. You are one of 11 children, is that right?
Yeah, one of 11. The last one, they finally got it right, let's say.
I love that.
There was a reason to stop. Other than that, they obviously just wanted to keep on going,
Love that. So tell us what that was like growing up, being the youngest child of 11 or 10 siblings.
Yeah. So we grew up on a station, so isolated. So there wasn't, it wasn't about going down to the neighbour's house or going down to the shops or the park. We lived in a park. We lived in paradise. So it was about 13,000 acres of bush just around our homestead. So it was endless ability to have adventures. And lots of archaeological sites, of 150 years of humans habitating that area, plus, of course, 40,000 years of habitation in that particular area around our homestead. So there was so much to always discover and find in ancient tools, plus, of course, the ruins from, bushfires and floods that the humans had been doing. So lots and lots of amazing adventures and fun. And I used to do it mostly with my dogs and myself because, yes, I had 10 siblings, but they were all a lot older, a lot more able, and we were very much so a work-orientated family. Like, the reason my dad kept having kids is so that he would have more slave labour on his farm. Let's just get to the exact facts of the situation. So we were all about work, and because I was a lot younger than everyone, I think there was about a 3 or 4 year gap between me and the next sibling. So yeah, I was often just having adventures off by myself in the bush with dogs. So having 10 siblings, it wasn't like we're all mates. They were, but I was kind of the afterthought, the little one, the annoying one, the one that was just there. So and they, of course, the older ones had all left home by the time that I was coming along. So it was very much a work-orientated family. Get in. Work from the age of, we're having a blackout.
Bit of discotheque, bit of strobe.
It is the disco. Oh, my ring light's gone. There we go. It's back on.
We're back on.
So it was very much so a family that was focused on work and yeah, by the time, you're 4 or 5, then that's when you start working. So that is, picking sticks, clearing land, because we're still developing our farm very much so it was the last part of Australia that was settled and developed. Wasn't really opened up until the 1960s. Our station was one of the first stations, but it wasn't at all developed. It was just virgin bush. So lots and lots of land development, burning, clearing, and then, of course, developing the land and mustering in very, very thick bush. And when you're a little kid, you can run through the bush at the same height as cattle, because cattle make the pathways through the bush, but you can't get through there on horseback, and you certainly can't get through there as an adult. So most of the really hard mustering were done by little kids, and particularly me. So all of that adventures that I had in the bush were actually work adventures. I had to go and hunt cattle and get them out of the 13,000 acres of scrub that we had and get them to cattle yards and stuff. And it was all done on foot because, as I say, the thickness of the timber and the growth, because it was sand country and the trees, they fall over and lean on each other. So, yeah, there's absolutely no way of getting through there except by running and little kids.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so unusual childhood, but very much a work-focused one. So it was never really about fighting for attention, but one would imagine someone like me who's been on a lot of reality TV that it would seem as much, but maybe that's due to something else.
Hey, this is an extraordinary story. I'm loving this. So, Farmer Dave, was booze prevalent in your world? Was Dad cracking open a VB or a long net Melbourne bitter and all your older siblings? Like, what was it? Was alcohol prevalent in your world growing up?
Yeah, so alcohol is very much so a cultural norm in the bush. There's no question that's what brings the whole community together, be it at the club for the farmers or be it at the pub for the farm employees. But very much so it's the glue that brings everyone together over whatever event. Otherwise, you're on your farm, you're working, and then you go and booze is a part of bringing the community together, because there is no other community events other than church. And as a Protestant in our area, we would only meet at people's houses. And there was often booze straight after the church service. But yeah, so my father never drank until he was 40. And my mum came from a family where there was a lot of alcoholic abuse and extreme physical abuse due to the alcohol. So she was very much against alcohol. And then, as I say, my dad, because he was just had a massive work ethic, he was didn't have a beer until he was 40. But, as I'm the 11th, by the time I came along, my parents had relaxed their understanding of what alcohol was. And being in Queensland, very hot, we often had power outages. So, alcohol became a bigger part of my life. And working on stock camps, of course, it's all about the blowout. You've wrecked yourself droving or you've wrecked yourself mustering. All the stockmen, to be able to get over their pain, their physical pain that they have, booze was the way to deal with the extreme physical pain. So absolutely, it was as I went through my late teenage years and then my early 20s, booze was a huge part of the self-medicating, dealing with the drought, dealing with the extremely physically taxing work that we were doing. And also it was that social cohesion because, the population definitely started to drain in the bush towards the late 90s. So it was kind of like when I was coming into my adulthood, booze said, "G'day, I'm your friend."
Yeah, wow.
It was everywhere you looked, really, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Sounds like
it.
So tell us then, Dave, can you remember your very first drink and what did that look like?
You know what? I think I actually do. It would have been a 4X beer. Dad was sharing it between the horse, himself, and me.
Was it a can or a long neck?
I'm not kidding. It would have been a stubby. Yeah, it would have been a stubby. But there was a horse, a Palomino horse that I just loved it. Gave me a sip because he's kind of said that, well, if it's all right for the horse, it'll be all right for the kid. So, I don't know how old I would have been, 6 or,
It sounds like that was a kind of a bonding moment between you and your dad and the horse. So then in your teenage years, how did your drinking evolve when you first started, drinking with your friends or with work? How did that evolve? How did that look like?
Yeah. So, again, because of the stories that my mum had told me growing up from her life and the extreme physical abuse, her amazing father turned into, the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing of as soon as he was drunk and, obviously trials and tribulations from his childhood of extreme poverty, and then the period during the war would have impacted on his, turning into that person when he was drunk. That violence made me abstain from alcohol right up until probably 18, and
Wow.
then I jumped in all guns blazers, and very much so joined the bush cult that is when you come together, you drink. And I suffered extreme anxiety as well. Like as much as I'm a very affable person now, I was petrified of being in group spaces. So when we would go to community events, I was often hiding in the bush, or I'd find the farmers' dogs and I'd go out and I'd hang out with them because they're usually 100 metres from the house. But yeah, when I was 18 and we were expected to actually communicate effectively with people because you're now an adult and people talk to you, I would sink grog to be able to, talk, because I was just petrified of other humans. I just wanted to be back on the farm and be in the tractor or on the back of a horse. So alcohol for me at 18, 19, 20 became my ability to communicate effectively with other humans and try and self-medicate away that extreme agoraphobia.
I think so many people can relate to that, can't they? Oh, I get it. I get it.
It's shocking, isn't it? Like, as a human, we are so pre-programmed to be together. And when you fear being together and everyone around you is so excited to be together and you're like, I don't want to be here, but everyone expects you to be here and it all seems so normal. And then you just drink and you're like, okay, I might be able to do this. But you're not. You're just masking the inner issues, right?
Well, it was really interesting. I went to a function on the weekend. We went to this function together. With 25 years, we haven't seen these group of people for. And I was going in sober and I started to get a bit wound up. I was so surprised he was getting wound up too. He was anxious. And I'm like, wow, this social anxiety is a thing. It's so common. We don't really talk about it enough because we all sort of try and tough it out or pour booze on it to sort of give you that social lubricant, don't we? So, yeah, that conversation will help so many, I'm sure. So what did your drinking look like past that stage of 18? How bad did it get? Talk us through what a picture of your drinking looked like, Dave.
So work like absolute crazy, sometimes working for 3 months on the farm and then getting in my ute and driving to the city, whatever that looked like, if it was 3 hours to Toowoomba or if it was 5 hours to Brisbane, and then just getting absolutely hammered and ending up goodness knows where,
What was your drink of poison? Sorry to cut you off.
Back then it was always beer, and then moved into the rum and coke.
Bundy boy,
rum pig.
Yeah, luckily I wasn't a violent rum drinker, but it's after a while when you build up your tolerance and you're sinking up to a carton, right? You just can't sink that much beer, so you got to move cokes.
And was that every weekend, Dave? Would you say that's
no, definitely be in that mass binge. So you'd do a cultivation period, or you do a harvest period, and then or you do a big muster or a drove, and then boom, straight into town. And it did lead me down some pretty bad paths. I mean, when I was 25, I got myself in a situation where I got gay bashed. Like I was drunk and I was had a skinful, and there was these guys outside of a pub, and it was the exact same situation. I've been driving on the tractor for months, zoomed into Brisbane, got completely plastered, and I just thought, I'll stop these guys from being jerks and throwing glass bottles at everyone as they left the gay bar. But then, they ended up smashing the shit out of me because whatever. Yeah. So, that was what I suppose one of the real low points of understanding that, you build up all this Dutch courage because of grog, but if you can't back it up, you end up in a pool of blood and being left for dead. Yeah.
Oh, that's frightening.
Shocking. Yeah.
So sorry that happened to you,
Awful.
Dave. Yeah.
Awful.
Character building, as they say.
It's always a silver lining, right? So then can you talk to us about, I think it was 2020 that you gave booze a flick? End of 2020, was it?
Yeah. So it was a real conscious decision because here I was back, I'd gotten over social anxiety, and thankfully, became, a person that presents in front of tens of thousands of people on a regular basis. So I wasn't drinking as much in the intensity that I used to. But then, starting as a youth worker and hearing some real trauma, there's this thing about vicarious trauma where, you've got all these teenage kids that have been through absolute hell, like stuff that you don't see on the most cruelest of cruel Hollywood imaginations. And these happen to kids that, that are vulnerable, and they open up to you and they tell you their stories. What do you do with that, and where do you go with that, especially during COVID, where some days I would have, 15, 16, 17 kids that I'd be working with to keep on the straight and narrow as a youth worker, and make sure that they weren't making really poor choices with drugs, or of course violence, or of course getting themselves into crime during the lockdown period. So I realised that I was self-medicating again, but wasn't self-medicating with 2 beers a night. I was self-medicating sometimes with a carton a night just to be able to get myself to sleep, because I wasn't sleeping. And then as we went into further into lockdown, I realised that I can't be teaching these kids to make really good choices if, so the moment that I've got my door closed, that I'm sinking and into the abyss that I'm trying to get them out of. What a hypocrite. And with Sober in the Country, and with just that constant reinforcement of, hey, there is another way. You can do this. You don't need this crutch. Because I got over my social anxiety with other ways. Of course, I can deal with the vicarious trauma and the issues around, one bloke trying to manage such a big, challenging organisation like Rough Track. There is another way, and thankfully there was. So, it worked.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Did you, sorry, Meso, did you seek out Sober in the Country before you made that decision, or were you already across the work that Shanna was doing?
Oh, absolutely across it. Look, I knew her from school.
Cool.
Yeah, of course, loose unit. We used to end up drinking in the same gutters. So
you knew Shanna. Did you say you knew Shanna from school?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah, very. She was best friends with my sister. My whole growing up period. So yeah, I'd seen her journey from being the life of the party, but then so depressed. Yeah. And because I saw all those sides of it, I didn't just see her at the BNS. I saw her the day after and the week after. You know what I mean? Like, I knew her journey, and then I knew the peace that she'd found from becoming sober, and then the reinforcement and the kindness and compassion that she'd been sharing through Sober in the Country. And it's just kind of like, when there's that niggling feeling that makes you get out of bed and remember to turn off a leaking tap. It was kind of that feeling that was constantly just niggling away at me, saying, hey, you've got to do something about this.
Yeah, that's exactly the question I was going to ask. Did Sober in the Country and Shanna's story, was that the seed that was planted for you to just go, was that the first initial sort of, I need to do something about that? Or had it been longer before that?
No, it was definitely Shanna's work. Yeah, because I never really saw it as a problem.
No, we don't. None of us
I didn't
do
see
we?
my drinking as a problem.
No.
When people just love being around you, when you're drinking, there is no, there's no reason not to. And what do you do? And then
exactly. And we normalise that anxiety. We normalise the come downs. We normalise the hangovers. Like, even this function I was at on the weekend, the host had already organised his icy poles and burger rings. People have organised taking Monday off because they know they're going to be written off. I was the same. Yeah. I would organise my bender so I would have Monday, Tuesday off because I knew I'd be a write-off, and have your hydrolyte and, all the steps in place to deal with a hangover. What are we doing? Like, it's just madness. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
So then Sober in the Country obviously might have opened up that sober curious world. What tools did you use to manage getting off the booze? Talk to us through. Yeah.
Yeah. So instead of drinking, I've got 30 dogs here as part of the crack program, right? So instead of having a beer, so I would get a dog and I would go for a walk. And all around us is these new developments, right? And beautiful rolling hills, if anyone remembers the country practice, this is where it was filmed.
Wonder Valley. Wonder Valley.
Yeah. But it's now housing development. And so, I'd get out and I'd walk the dog. When that dog got buggered, I'd take it back and I'd get another dog. And sometimes in a night, I'd get to the same time that I used to be drinking, but I'd be on my fourth dog,
Oh, my God.
The dog would be like, seriously? Then I'd be carrying the dog. So that was pretty much how I did it. I stepped my way out of alcohol,
Literally.
Yeah.
I can really
get a dog, go for a walk.
I can really relate to that. That's exactly what I did when I first gave up. Instead of drinking 2 bottles of Sauvignon Blanc, I would walk for 2 hours. Like I'd just walk and just pound it out and just put the tunes on and smash it out. But I'm just a little bit into country practice at the moment. Bob and Cookie and Shirl and the TP and Fatso.
Yes, mate, Watson.
Oh, what a show. Dr. Elliot. And when his daughter came back, she was an addict too.
Yeah, and Fatso would have got into it as well, I reckon.
I reckon he was sniffing around.
It always looked like he was hungover.
What about Dave? You mentioned how before you were saying how people loved, basically you on the piss. What was their reaction like, and how did you go about? Did you sort of sing it from the hilltops? Did you keep it quiet? And how did people react to that?
Yeah, well, I suppose, there's 2 lives that I kind of come from. One is, the bush, grog brings you together. The other one is being a gay guy and, of course, going to the club brings you together. It's always around substances to change how you're feeling. And I didn't have any of those things because it was lockdown. So there was no social events. So that's kind of the beauty of lockdown for me, is there was no socialising.
Yeah.
So, I would have, a dozen, 15, 16 kids by day, trying to manage all of them, work my guts out with them, doing physical work to try and bring down their anxieties and move them forward with their journeys, keep them busy and keep them off the streets. But and then, of course, at night, I'm walking the dog everywhere that I possibly can within my 5 kilometres that the government left me. Lots of round and round of the house comments. Yeah. I'm incriminating myself a lot here, aren't I? Yeah. Definitely just in the 5 kilometre area.
Yep.
You're not going to be cancelled. It's okay.
Yeah. So to straight up and be honest with you, there just wasn't the opportunity. That was taken away by COVID. So I was kind of incubated during my booze-free process.
So it's a bit of a blessing.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, for me, COVID was one of the greatest self-realisation, self-reflection periods. And I just think that as a human society, we're racing forward so much since, the 50s, 60s. We just kept going and going and going. And COVID was just kind of like, hey, chill out, bruh.
Yeah.
And that's what it was for me. So, I very much so took it as a self-reflection time. And, the other benefit of giving up the booze and doing lots of steps is, I got down to 90 kilos.
You got reps.
I've been up around 120, 130 kilos. So, the benefits were a lot everywhere.
So what about now? Are you going to clubs? Are you, catching up with people in the bush? How does that work now without booze for you?
Yeah, how does it work? It isn't as easy as one would imagine. I've tried the taste like, but isn't really.
Yeah.
That costs the same, but you don't get plastered. That actually was a slippery slope for me. So, when you're going to people's houses, when we started to open up and you'd be able to go to people's houses, I'd take along the no alcohol options, and it was kind of you get a case of the fuckets, and you're like, oh, I just want to try what everyone else is having, and then you try it, and then you're like, fuck it, and then you're on. I got completely hammered when I tried that the no alcohol stuff, that was probably one of the worst blowouts I've had in a really long time. Just going to a mate's place where there was just a few of us, and because I probably had never sung it, I never told anyone that I was giving up the grog. I was just trying to be on my own about it, and didn't say to anyone that this is alcohol-free stuff. I just wanted to just smooth in there. But what I've realised is you do need to tell your friends. You do need to have supports around you so that when you get a case of the fuckets, your mate's going to be, hey, don't do that. And my kids are amazing at that. My mates are amazing at that, and that's really what kept me on the straight and narrow. Yeah, it was COVID that incubated it. Yeah, it was getting out and pounding the pavement with dogs that gave me an alternative behaviour. But what kept me going is the kids around me just reminding me that, you know, the choices that I'm telling them to encouraging them to make, they're also encouraging back on me, and which is fantastic because I've been very open about my journey with them. And then, of course, my mates by saying, hey, Dave, do you want me to grab you a X drink, as opposed to, you know, so that has just been so critical for me, is having that support network.
I love hearing that. We are all about supportive mates here, aren't we, Meso?
Too right.
And it's interesting what you're saying about alcohol-free drinks, Dave, because, and Meso will share her story in a moment, but they're what's kept me on track. In my experience, I lean on them to fill that gap for me, for that social inclusion, and I just like beer as well. But Meso had a bit of a different experience initially.
Yeah, I was the same, Dave. Like, I thought they were going to be quite triggering for a start, so I kept a really wide berth about them as well. And eventually I ended up using them as I would alcohol, but without the alcohol. But I didn't rip the lid off it and go, fuck it. But I can really understand. And I think you've probably been the first guest that we've had on who has said, yeah, they're really triggering. Can you touch them now, or are they a hard no?
100%, I do, but so it's the zero beer. And so I went yesterday. I was with some mates on the Central Coast, and I was drinking the zero sparkling. Now I'm all on the substitutes, but I suppose in that critical period of getting back out into the world, it was not good for me. But the beer and the champers, and it's just about, and again, now that I have my mates around me knowing what I'm doing, there is no questioning of it, because let's face it, if you're not very clear beforehand and set yourself up for success to say, hey, I'm coming to this thing, I'm going to be on a booze-free thing, can you please support me? Because yesterday, a mate that I'd never told that journey to, he was like, zero? What the hell is this all about? You know, you.
Yeah, like what the fuck?
What do they say? Piss poor performance leads to piss poor preparation leads to piss poor performance. So if you haven't set yourself up that foundation,
say it every day, mate.
Exactly.
You're on the same page.
Exactly.
Absolutely. You've got to set yourself up for success before you go to events. Let your mates know, so that there is not going to be any questioning, because, you know, those social anxiety things will kick in as like, oh, well, I'm not, so I should. And so you've really got to have your supports around you, so that if someone does say something, because, you know, when people get a bit boozy, they are going to be like, what's wrong with you? I need alcohol to bloody function. How can you not? Yeah,
and you can easily cave in that situation. It's easy to just, if someone's saying, why don't you have one? And you kind of go, yeah, but why can't I have one? Like, maybe I can. And then you end up caving because you want to be a people pleaser, and you're doing it for somebody else, not for yourself. But interesting you say, we've got a friend who can drink everything else but can't touch whiskey. So the non-alc whiskey, he just can't touch, won't go near it. So it's interesting to know what your poison is and what to avoid. So, yeah. And
what was the drink that you had, Dave, the non-alcoholic drink that tipped you over?
Oh, it was the gin.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And did you normally drink gin?
Mate, I drank everything.
I was going to say, probably if it had booze in it.
Mate, it didn't really matter. It was gin. No, I was going to some gay mates, so it was kind of like, you know, I wanted to fit in something similar. They're all going to be having mixes. I wanted to, you know, make it seamless. Yeah. So wasn't really going to be a Bundy and Rums kind of event. Was on the veranda with the pool and the poodles.
You read the room.
That's so good. So then tell us the highs and lows of sobriety, Dave.
Yeah, okay. So the highs are that I can physically do so much more, that I can get up in the morning and I can go, let's do this, Jimmy. Jimmy's my dog who I sleep with every day.
Oh.
He's just over there.
Bring Jimmy in.
Oh,
Bring
yeah,
Jimmy in
we
the
want to see
picture.
Jimmy.
Bring Jimmy in.
Jimmy, come over here. Jimmy. Jimmy. Oh,
Here he comes.
there's Jimmy.
Oh,
He's only got little legs.
what breed is Jimmy?
So Jimmy is he's purebred gorgeous. Yeah.
Oh.
So he has the body of a red cattle dog, but he's got these little arms that don't even reach his nose.
Oh, little T-Rex.
Yes.
Yeah, so he's probably got a bit of Jack Russell in him, but he's
Yeah.
he's absolutely cool as. And then when I talked about going for a walk with other dogs, his little legs don't go very far. I carry him most places, so he definitely wasn't my alternative behaviour for sobriety. I can tell you that right.
He wasn't your rehab dog.
Yeah, just being able to get up in the morning and get out of bed before Jimmy and just go to the gym or go for a run or get out on the farm and do stuff. You can just achieve so much more.
Yeah,
and then I suppose the other thing is not hanging. But you look at the clock. What I used to be doing was oh, crikey, there's only an hour left to go. There's 28 minutes left to go. There's 5 minutes to go. And then, you'd be counting down the seconds to get to the bottle-o. That sort of stuff of just sweating to get your first sip is gone. Thank goodness. And to be reliant on fermented barley or fermented grapes is crazy.
Yeah.
Why do you say it like that?
It's just insane. Like, after rotten fluids, and that's what I'm hanging for the end of the day. Like, come on.
That is quite the app.
It really, really is. And we all do it. Like, everyone talks about wine time, 5 o'clock, or don't have, so many. I'll say, Mummy Wine Coach talks about, 5 o'clock, isn't it, before you can open a beer or a wine. It's crazy hanging out for that grotty drink.
Yeah, no.
I love that.
And what does it do, and the other things that I suppose techniques that I had was, brushing my teeth, always brushing your teeth so that then you just don't like the taste of alcohol. That was a technique that I was doing as well to just control myself. Chewing gum as well so that I'd had that mint in me so that, as soon as I did take that first taste, you'd just spit it out. Because, at the same time of giving up booze, I then was able to give up cigarettes and I was a 40 a day guy.
Oh, you're a mad data.
Does that?
There's all these things that you need to be doing to try and help with your give ups, right? Because, not just improve one thing about your life. Right?
That's massive.
Yeah, give it all away, all or nothing.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Although, most people say, when you are a smoker, they're like, oh, you can drive a Lamborghini by now. But funnily enough, I have saved over $36,000 and I did the weird thing of investing that into the stock market. It's worth a lot less than that now. But the good thing is that my lungs are improved and I'm setting a good example and I may live a lot longer than I am. And people will talk to me more now and you're not ostracised and put out in the dog cage whenever you go anywhere. So lots of benefits and it all comes back to that single decision of going, I don't need fermented juice to get me through what happened to me today or what I need to do to get to sleep tonight.
And look how fresh you look.
Yeah.
Off the durries, off the fermented juice, like walking the doggos, you look incredible. It's you speak the situation and your teeth. Your situation speaks for itself, Dharma Dave. What durries?
A lot of brushing of the teeth so that I went to grog in the first few weeks. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, what durries were you on? What was your choice of darts?
The cheapest I could get.
Really? Long Beach?
Straight up. Because, when you're 40 a day, you're talking about
That's massive.
week, so it literally was I'd go into the servo or the tobacconist and I just go, give me your cheapest packets.
Horizon 40s.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Are you coming back are you coming back from somewhere dodgy? Bring me a card.
Yes, always.
Yeah, but no, look. I suppose if I had the choice, it was JPS Blues. Yeah.
Oh yeah. If I socially dart, I go on the JPS Super King menthols.
Oh, nice.
Classy.
Fresh breath and everything.
Yes.
It lasts a bit longer. Was there any lows then, Dave, of sobriety? If he gives you an all?
Yeah, when I didn't achieve it. So that first, gin event, that really made me feel like a failure, because I work with youth and I'm all about getting them to learn how to make better choices and to get a better life. They don't end up, in prison or in a cemetery, which is the pathway that usually we get them. I felt like, who the hell am I? I'm such a hypocrite that I was, I hadn't told anyone, but here I was, months and months and months into my journey, and then I got a case of the fuckets, and I just did it. I was really hard on myself. I think that was the worst part of it, is just not being kind to myself to go, you know what, you are going to trip up on because sobriety is a journey, right?
Yeah.
Sobriety is not a place that you live happily in. It's an ongoing, everyday journey that anyone that's ever dealt with substance abuse knows that every day and every step of every day, every drama that comes along is going to suck you into that hole again. And but it's, I don't see sobriety as a place. For me, it's a journey that I walk every single day. And I suppose learning to be kind when I do stuff up. But thankfully, it's been a long time since I have.
Honestly, that quote.
I know, it's a ripper.
That's going straight up there. Sobriety is a journey, not a place. It's so true. We're only human, and it breaks my heart. I'm sure you're the same, Breezer, when we know that shame that we put on ourselves when we have, relapsed or had another drink. We're only human. And I think that releases so much shame. Sobriety is a journey, not a place, because we think we've got to get sobriety right the first time. But no one does. Does anyone? But we put this pressure on ourselves that we've butchered it, and then we just go, fuck it, and rip their head off, rip into it. Yeah. So that's brilliant. I absolutely love that. Love it.
Where do you want to get to, Dave? Do you imagine yourself one day having a beer and that's it, like having a beer, or is it just like no-go zone? Are you still? So,
funnily enough, I was again in the cocoon of a situation. So I recently filmed Big Brother, and so then they brought a whole lot of old housemates back, and they put new housemates in there, and that was a really limited. So they give you one beer when someone gets evicted, and so during that process, I'd be like, no alcohol, no alcohol, no alcohol. And I thought, well, maybe this is the time. This is the time that I try that one beer and see if it's for me. And I had that one beer. I went around and emptied everyone's cups. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I realised that I wasn't ready. And if I was ever going to be ready, I don't know. And then because I'd kind of opened the hatch on it, I was hanging for each person's eviction.
Oh,
yeah.
Right.
Wow. So I that was lifting the Band-Aid off too early.
Yep.
And the night that I got evicted, I got into the hotel and rang room service and got 2 6-packs sent up to my room. And I had half a beer, and I said, what are we going to do here, Dave? Are we going to sink the rest of this, or are we going to actually take responsibility for our own actions? And are we going to remember how good it is to actually wake up in the morning and feel like you want to be there, or how good it is to be able to just enjoy going to sleep at night with your thoughts and be okay with what's going on, because sometimes you need to process what's going on. You don't need to drown it out with booze. And that was it. I spat back into the bottle, and all that beer that I got, which was from you know, really expensive.
Good shit.
room service.
Room
you know.
service, absolutely.
This is a big move that I'm making here. Just left it there. And that really gave me my power back because I was on that show just hungering for that grog because, again, I was dealing with the pressures of the environment of Big Brother that was really much so on steroids to what I'd remembered from 16 years ago. So I was hanging for the grog in there. And then I got out, I'd ordered it all, and I was like, nah, this is that point that I'm making.
What a crossroads. And for you to listen to that and lean into that and make that really conscious decision, that's a massive emotional maturity to just go, all right, I've got a decision to make and talk yourself through it.
Yeah.
No one does that. I didn't. Like, you know, just rip that. And I would drink that beer because you've spent so much money on it. That's going to waste.
It was like $160 on my credit card. It's ridiculous.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it go to waste. But I actually want to just circle back what you're talking about, drinking everybody else's drinks. At this function that I was at, I was standing there with my friend who's pregnant, and there was a table full of drinks that, you know, everyone had just sort of left. And I looked at it, I said, there was a time I'd probably drink all those drinks.
Probably, you would have, mate.
Just because I see there's a high in all of those cups. There's results. People have left it behind. What are you doing? What a waste. I'll just
What a
hook in.
waste.
What a waste.
What
You know what I mean? But yeah, madness. Anyway, I get it. Incredible. Well
Thank
done.
you for sharing that. That's epic. That's huge. Absolutely massive. Yeah. So you've had, your sobriety journey has been, you know, you've had ups and downs. You've done it all, I feel. What advice, you've had that experience, what advice would you give our listeners who, you know, were you 2 years ago? Who are you?
Oh, crikey. What could have I told myself 2 years ago? You're asking?
Yeah.
I'm a very strong little person. But I suppose, the main thing is you've got this. You can actually do this. You don't need a crutch, and you don't need to relieve the pain. It's okay to feel it, and if you're feeling it from other people, then find someone to be able to talk to and pass that on. Like, you know, I got a supervisor so that I could then, a clinical supervisor, so I could pass on the extreme trauma that was coming to me from, you know, horrendous things that have happened to these kids. So, you know, don't feel that you have to mask yourself and don't feel that you have to medicate yourself, because there are people with a lot more training and degrees and pieces of paper on a wall that do it for you. You are not the expert. And so you do you, and let the actual medicating people medicate you correctly, and let the actors play their roles, but you do you. And I think there's so much power in actually being okay with the pain that you're dealing with, and go through those thoughts, because your body is not able to sleep, because your body is saying, hey, I need to sort this shit out. And if you're taking something to get yourself to sleep, well, then you're obviously not listening to your body saying, hey, I'm not really coping with this. Maybe we need to lighten the load, or we need to pass the load on. Yeah. So great. That's probably the only thing I would have listened to 2 years ago, because I was like, you know what, I can do this. No, you can't. No, you can't. I wasn't. I was self.
Love that.
We do.
Love that. Hey, can I ask a quick personal question? Are you on the dating scene, or do you have a partner at the moment?
No, I have a partner. Yeah.
So you haven't had to do, because Meso's on the dating scene, and she's like, "Well, yeah, we'll be doing the dating scene sober." So I was going to see if you got any advice for Meso.
Yeah, I do have some advice for you.
Come at me.
Yeah, swipe right on as many as you possibly can.
Don't
be afraid of all the arrows that come your way, because it's like doing anything. You know, I was teaching the kids over the last spring period to look for 4-leaf clovers, right? And then we had a mare come yesterday, and she's like, "Oh, I find 4-leaf clovers all the time." She found 3 in a few minutes.
No.
Then the kids were able to find them everywhere, and I'd promised the kids $50 if they find a 4-leaf clover. And of course, the brain thinking in me is start looking in front of you, kids. Stop thinking about behind or in front. Be present. And that was why I did this whole $50 thing around the $50 thing around four-leaf clovers. But it's like when you really start looking, you'll find it.
Yeah. I'm swiping right, baby. Don't worry about that. I'm just after a little match, a little ego here. So no, that's good. And a beautiful bit of advice we got from a friend is, be where your hands are.
Yeah,
be where your hands are, be in the moment, be rather than thinking too far forward. Yeah, isn't that beautiful? Because we do end up ruining today thinking about tomorrow. So it's just being in that moment. Isn't that beautiful?
I hadn't heard that one before, Maso.
It's a ripper.
Yeah.
Thanks, Noddy. That was from Noddy.
That was from Noddy. That's a ripper.
And just going back on your work, which is just extraordinary what you're doing with your youth work, and that responsibility and the heaviness you carry from 16 or however many kids you are carrying and all of their stuff, that you're matching that mood as well. So there's no wonder you would have been going home and, needing a release or a relieve, some sort of escape from all of that. So anyone would be doing the same. I think you're doing an extraordinary job. So well done.
But you know what? I've learned and I've listened, and, I have an amazing team. Like, we have 20 odd kids here today. You've got to work hard, but we've got there, and we now have a great team. There's eight people here now that run this program, which allows me the opportunity to be here right now and also to be present where my hands are with you guys.
Yes, I love that. Awesome. And just because I have to have another one, what you were saying before about letting sort of the professionals do the medicating and stuff. Another friend of ours, he's in the hospitality industry and given up the booze. So he's right in the mix. That's his life. That's his career. I said, how do you go with that? He goes, I've got someone else to do the ordering and the buying and dealing with the alcohol. So, I thought.
And you know who's here today? A psychologist. Every Tuesday, we have a psychologist from 9 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So you're absolutely right. You've got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, and know when to walk away. Like, what really is your abilities, and don't try and do everything because you are not the expert.
Yes. But you were so right. But I think because alcohol is marketed to us as this glorious, easy thing that's just part of our lives.
Yeah.
Grip some people, 1 in 10 or whatever it is. Why is it's so easy for some people to moderate and harder for other people to, let it go. It's just a messy thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's annoying to be the 1 in 10 that,
Yes.
But then again, you know what? I'm sure there's an alcoholic left-handed gay guy out there.
Before we start wrapping up, you quoted The Gambler. That is triggering for me, Dave, because it takes me back to a netball trip where I ended up blacking out and rolling around in chook poo.
I'm glad that we can laugh about it. That was gold.
I went out to a nightclub. I ended up going out to a nightclub, and I think I might have passed 2 guys or whatever, as you do when you're 18 on the dance floor. But my friend who was working at the bar, she's like, what do you stink? Like, oh my God. She's like, what have you been rolling in? And I'm like, oh shit, it's chook poo. Disgusting. Alcohol. I wouldn't be doing that sober. I would not be doing that sober, rolling around chook poo.
So funny.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, quick rapid fire questions. I've got 3 of them for you.
Righto, here we go.
You ready? All right.
Yeah.
Mel Todd. I work with Mel at Virgin, much loved colleague of mine.
No way.
Yeah, she's always singing. What was her go-to tune, and what did you love about her the most?
Okay, you couldn't sing in the Big Brother house, but she knows that I absolutely live for a Dolly Parton. So whenever she would sneak it in, she would do a bit of 9 to 5.
Yes. Love that. If you were a dog breed, which one would you be?
Kelpie. a little bit, border collie on crack. That's. I'm just a lot, Sonia, but I'm all about wanting to serve. So it's crazy about being full on, but also always wanting to serve others. Yeah.
Love that. Okay, last question. If we were dogs, give us your best round us up. Give us your best whistles and commands.
I'm a clicker trainer, so click and reward is my good thing.
Give us it.
So thank you. Thank you for sharing your stories, and look, thank you for allowing me and so many other people to share their stories, because knowledge is power. And what you ladies are doing is giving people the ability to take back control of their lives. And if 1 or 2 or 6 or 6,000 people can get power from the knowledge that you guys are sharing from your own journeys, but from other people's journeys, then you are empowering people to make the real changes that they need to make in their lives. And that is to get their own power back away from the bottle or whatever else it is that they're using as a mask or an empowering from somewhere else, to be able to find it from within. So that's my positive reinforcement to you.
I love that. That's
Thank
beautiful.
you so much for that. And thank you for sharing your story today. We've got 2 quick things to wrap this up, Dave. The first one is...
It wasn't lots of yelling or whistling, was it?
Oh, yeah, give us a click. Give us a click.
Have you got a
click? Have you got us a click? Give us a click. We'll sit and stay.
I don't have a clicker, but it's... So I do a kissing noise, and that's my marker signal to then reinforce. Yeah.
But go through those commands. So what are they? What goes with what? So
I make a clicking noise and then that gives me an opportunity to reinforce. So when the dog hears that kissing noise, they know that behaviour that they were performing just then is what's going to get them a reinforcer in the future.
Love that.
Yes, it's called positive reinforcement training. It's how we get dogs to do all sorts of cool things, for TV or for performance, or just to get them to sit, come, do a little cute pose.
I'll do a cute pose.
You need to come and train my dog. I've got a jug dog, Dave. It's a cross.
Little jug.
Jug, yeah, and yeah, she's a very loose unit. But it's because I just haven't put the time in to her. So, but she's a gorgeous dog. Chili.
I've got a Chili the jug. And I had a doggy daycare dog walking business during lockdown that I think I probably cancelled from my last episode when I lost a dog drunk.
The dog was okay.
Dog was okay. Dog was found, but yeah. Anyway, so I have a very strong connection to doggos too.
Yeah, we love them.
They are the best, and they often get us through when we can't get ourselves through, right?
So, 100%. In fact, I think that's why, to be fair, I selfishly started that doggy daycare dog walking business for my mental health in COVID, because I'm for company. So yeah, that's essentially what it was. It was great.
It's a phone fucking with the PH, so we can give it F for the call attacks. Phone fucking with the PH, give him a ring, check it, roll the decks.
So much regret, so much fucking up. What ex haven't I spoken to when I've been drunk? Oh, crikey.
You haven't texted Sonia Kruger or anything while you're being blind?
Yeah, probably. I probably told her that I wanted to breed with her. I'm one of those people that's just out of control when it comes to being on my phone and drunk. And, a total loose unit. Look, I suppose it wasn't on my phone, but I used to have a dog centre that was boarding, so it was free range. There was cameras everywhere. There was like 20 odd cameras, and people would look on their phones and see exactly what their dog was doing at any point in time. And I used to camp with the dogs, and I'd sleep in. They had these little cool houses that was everywhere, multi-level houses, and I'd sleep in with the dogs in my swag. And anyway, one night I did have quite a few beers, and lost my clothes. So, because, the dog kind of take your clothes, but so I was naked and they'd been chewing my clothes and wandering off with the clothes because it's free range, they're, 100 yard by 100 yard paddocks. And so I was in with the Labradors, and Labradors taking all my clothes. So here I am running around trying to find my clothes. And of course I have near on 100 clients able to see me live on their phone. Yeah, running around naked, chasing their Labradors, trying to find my clothes. So, yeah, there we go. It was a lot of fun.
No one has ever said those words, a Labrador stole my clothes on Boozer Pants.
Yeah.
Love that.
I love
That's
it.
a classic.
I love it. That's so
classic.
It's time for the recommendation of the week.
Walk your dog. Do something with your dog. Yeah, just be present with your dog. And if you don't, well, then sleep with your dog. And if your dog's not allowed on the bed, well, then sleep on the floor with your dog. Just get a lot closer with your dog and give up human time, phone time, TV time, Netflix time, TikTok time, and just dedicate a whole period of time, whatever that is for you, with just you and your dog. And if you don't have one, well, there's one still wandering around looking for an owner from your doggy daycare business. So. Fido.
Oh, that is a classic.
Let's go.
But that's my favourite reco. I love that.
Yes,
I
so
love
do I.
that.
And it's true.
Dogs.
Like even on, if you don't have a dog, hop on your local community Facebook group and just put it out there. I want to walk someone's dog. You can do it for free.
Yeah.
You know, if people are looking for dog walkers all the time, you don't need to kick off an entire business. And if you're not wanting financial gain out of it, or you just need that little companionship just to be in a dog space, they really do.
Unconditional love.
You're just grounded and just the love. They're just the best. They're just pleased, aren't they? They're just
absolutely. And look, if they've got
so
a breath problem, it reminds you how you used to smell when you have grog breath in the morning. It just reminds you, and you can appreciate it. Going for a tongue kiss like you used to do.
Oh, I love it.
Yes.
Come here, Mrs. Jenkins. I love you.
Oh, Dave, you're brilliant.
Oh, we had a crush on you, and now we're just fully in love with you.
Yeah,
Totally.
we're fully
done.
obsessed now.
Yeah.
So,
The love is large.
Positive reinforcement dog training,
Yeah, you got me. You got
Oh, no, thank you so much.
Oh.
And thank you for taking the time out of your day away from the kids and the doggos to tell your story, which we know is going to help so many people and so many of our listeners and just the wider community. We've just loved this chat, haven't we, May?
so much.
It's had everything.
So much.
Had everything in
it really has. We adore you. Thank you so much. Like the second what Breeza said, it will help so many we won't even know about. So, it's incredible.
How can people find you, Dave? How can they find you in the work that you're doing?
Just got to Google Rough Track, RUFFTRACK, or just find me on the Insta.
Yes.
You'll be
Farmer Dave. And my handle's a bit weird.
I was looking at that.
Farmer Dave K9 Mate, because when you say it kind of gnarly like, it's Farmer Dave K9 Mate, like a man's dog's friend.
Like it.
I love that.
I did wonder that, but now you've solved that mystery. Thank you.
And if, otherwise,
what is this all about? 73.
Otherwise, you'll find him our new profile picture. So
I don't know if that's going to help you get many more people typing right on you. They might be a little bit confused when you turn up, but then again, it may actually be the key that you need.
Yeah.
We need to get a photo, don't we?
Yeah.
We actually do need to get a photo.
Thank you so much,
video.
Dave. Yes.
Thank you so much. You've been bloody awesome.
We love you.
Thanks, ladies.
This podcast is proudly produced by our audio engineer, music extraordinaire, Eric Ladd.
We love you, Eric.